All right, this is just to continue the notes today. And so I want to make a correction on your notes. On number 10, this is thanks to Kaylin. She pointed out that I made a mistake. And so in the class notes, right, clearly the parent function, right, f of x is equal to, arc sine of x. Okay? And I think the values that I gave you for f of x came from the sine function. And really, what I need to do is give you the values for the arc sine. Okay, so if you go back and look at your notes on the first page of your notes, right, the coordinates for your arc sine function are -1, negative pi over 2, 0, comma 0, and then 1 comma pi over 2. Okay, so this is on page 1 of your notes. There's no typo there. The typo I gave you guys in class was that I gave you the coordinates for sine of x instead of arc sine of x. Okay, so these are the original coordinates for arc sine of x. And everything else is still the same, right? You're asked to make a comparison. It's a reflection over the y-axis. Because the b value in here, right, is less than 0, and of course it's shifted up pi over 4 units. Okay, so again, in class I asked you, how does that impact, if you look on the inside, how does that impact your x values? Your x values, you divide by -1, okay, and the y values, you add pi over 4. Okay, so let's do that. If this is my x comma f of x, my x comma h of x, right? X values, I divide by -1, I get +1, 0, and -1. Over here for my negative pi over 2, I'm going to add pi over 4. Okay, so negative pi over 2 plus pi over 4. If you simplify that, right, -2 pi over 4 plus pi over 4, you'll get negative pi over 4. 0 plus pi over 4 is just pi over 4. And then pi over 2 plus pi over 4. If you get common denominators, you get 3 pi over 4. Okay, so these are your coordinates. All right, so if I were to graph this, this is what the arc sine of negative x looks like. And I'm going to plot from -1 to 0 to +1. There should be a tick mark over here. And my y values are, looks like negative pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, and we'll say pi over 4 is right around here. Okay, so plot those points, -1, comma, 3 pi over 4 is right around here, 0 pi over 4 is over here, and then 1 comma negative pi over 4 somewhere down here. So roughly the graph's going to look something like this. Okay, so there's your h of x. So please take a look at your notes. This is what I entered that was wrong. Okay, so this should be the correct coordinates. Again, thank you, Kaylin, for pointing that out. All right, so because I ran out of time, right, I'll do number 9 and 11 for you. So number 9 is actually a little bit easier. Right, you have g of x is equal to, again, this is the same notation. Oops, it should be sine inverse of x plus 1, right? If you were to make a comparison, right, you would say this is shifted 1 unit to the left. And, all right, so same exact thing, right? I take my original coordinates for my f of x. Again, my f of x, you could just call it sine inverse of x, or you can call it arc sine of x. Either one works, okay? So remember, this is the same notation. And again, these are my original coordinates, okay? -1, negative pi over 2, 0 comma 0, 1 comma pi over 2. And all I need to do, right, if I'm shifting it 1 to the left, right, x values should be fairly intuitive. You subtract 1, okay? So take your x value, subtract 1, you're going to get -2, -1, 1 minus 1 is 0. But your y values, you keep the same. Okay, so your graph is going to look something like this. Here's -2, here's -1, here's 0, pi over 2, negative pi over 2, and plot it. Basically, your arcsine function shifted 1 unit to the left, right? It would look something like this. Okay. So, oops, I think I plotted this wrong. Let me try that again. -2 is at -π/2. -1 is 0. And then 0, π/2. So, there we go. All right. There's my g of x. Okay, last problem number 11, the one that I skipped in class in case you're having difficulty. Let's go over it. So in your homework, when you do these problems, they actually give you the picture, so you don't have to worry about drawing the picture. So here's my right triangle. Theta is an acute angle, so here's theta. One leg is 3 units, the other leg is x plus 2. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if you call this longer leg x plus 2 and call the other one 3. Again, in your homework, when you're doing it, the triangle will be drawn for you. Okay, so the skill isn't really to assess whether or not you know how to draw the triangle. And what they're really asking you to do, right, is to find arc cosine, arc cosine of theta, arc sine of theta, right, and then arctan of theta. So what that means is you need to figure out what cosine of theta is, what sine of theta is, what tangent of theta is. Okay, so this is nothing but Pythagorean theorem. So maybe we'll call this r. We definitely need to solve for the hypotenuse. R squared is equal to x plus 2 squared plus 3 squared. So if you do some foiling over here, x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus 9, you're going to get r is the square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. Okay, so this is the square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. And if I ask you what is cosine of theta, you would say adjacent over hypotenuse, right? 3 over the square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. And then to get the arc cosine of this, right? To get theta by itself, because this is find theta in terms of x, you take the arc cosine of both sides, right? So theta is equal to arc cosine of 3 over the square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. So in this case, I mean, you could simplify your radical if you want, multiply top and bottom by the square root of 4x plus 13. The square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. But you could just leave it like this, okay? That's really what they want you to do. And do the same thing for sine, right? Sine of theta is equal to, x plus 2 over the square root of x squared plus 4x plus 13. And then to get theta by itself, right, you take the arc sine of both sides. So if I take the arc sine of both sides, it would become this. And there it is. There's your theta in terms of arc sine. And then do the one last thing, right? Figure out the tangent of theta. The tangent is the ratio of y over x plus 2 over 3. And then if you want to get theta by itself, you would say it's the arctan of x plus 2 over 3. Okay, so there's really nothing to it on these type of problems. You just need to be able to find the hypotenuse or the missing side leg or missing leg, and then of course apply your trig ratios. So hopefully that clarifies on some of the problems that I skipped. Again, sometimes if I run out of time in class, I'll go back and maybe add an extra video, and of course if I rush, I have a tendency to make mistakes. So you guys are always welcome to correct any mistakes, ask for me to clarify. I always appreciate that, and I'm sure your classmates appreciate